Well, I'm still sick, so no intro necessary for this one. We're just going to dive right in. We have a new TV spot for the Batman. This is by Warner Bros. Indonesia, and I think it's around 30 seconds. So yeah, let's check this out. Something interesting about this is the title is just simply The Batman Game. So, that's interesting. God, I sound like shit, man. I'm so sorry.
Like it or not, it's Riddler's game now.
I've always loved little puzzles.
What are we looking for? More symbols. Jesus, his next victim is Bruce Wayne.
It can be
Bro,
cruel,
what?
poetic, or blind, but when it's denied, it's in silence you may find.
The answer's justice.
Okay, shit, man. That was actually a lot of good footage. Yeah, those very brief, those very detailed. I really love this TV spot. It was so sort of simple, but so impactful. Here's the thing. I loved all the Batman trailers. I absolutely loved them all, but my favorite one is still the first one. Not just because that was sort of your first real exposure to the movie, but the tone they presented in that first teaser trailer was absolutely perfect for what I wanted out of a Batman movie. This sort of very grounded and slow-paced, suspenseful crime thriller mystery. It had such great vibes, and in preparation for the Batman, I've sort of been dabbling in that genre a bit more because I'm not too familiar with it. So recently I've been watching David Fincher movies. I just watched Zodiac last night, and the night before, or 2 nights before, I watched Seven. And I absolutely love both of those movies, but Seven especially. And the first teaser trailer was sort of very reminiscent in tone and thematically dark in that presence. So the next 2 trailers were more action-packed and had a bit more lightheartedness, and that's nothing wrong with that, but I just still adored the first teaser trailer in all its aspects, and as I mentioned, just especially tone. And here, I get the same exact sort of vibes. This one was much more mysterious. I'm guessing because it's called Game, and then Batman says, the Riddler's got a game for us, or something along the lines of that this one is more centralized towards the Riddler. That's the vibes I'm getting from it. So really, the Riddler is going to be like the heavy bulk of where all this feeling of nuance and suspense derives from, which I'm perfectly okay with. And this is sharing some ideas with that whole pool to play with. We have the aspect of rain and grit that's present in Fincher's movies, and then we have the Zodiac-inspired Riddler that Matt Reeves has taken inspiration from. Not necessarily the movie, but just more so the killer and the aspect of leaving clues and codes and deciphering, which is very along the lines of Riddler, but really pushing how he is very much a serial killer and has his own agenda. And we see it here represent and manifest like physically as well, where he flat out looks like the Zodiac killer. He's got the glasses above the mask. He's got his own symbol on his jacket. So I just love those little subtleties of it. And then in this trailer, again, you just see it really blossom and come to life, and I love that. And watching it, it looks like I'm gonna have to sort of watch it again just so I can refresh my memory. But there was a bat in a cage, which I'm wondering about. Yeah, right there. I don't know if you could see it on my screen. A bat in a cage. And we know through other trailers that Riddler has cages in his like hideout / apartment. So I wonder why he's keeping bats. It must be for some riddle or the play on irony of bats. Maybe he leaves a dead bat as a warning to the Batman. Something along the lines of that. Forgive me on my memory for this. There was a cipher that people decoded. I'm not going to take credit for that because I'm terrible at that shit, but someone decoded it. It was I can't remember what it was. I don't think it was the Oreo promo. It was some promo with the title card, the Batman, and then the cipher was underneath, and then they cracked it, and it said, like, I think it was in Spanish, but it translated to the winged rat, which is a bat. So here is quite literally a winged rat, a bat. So I don't know if there's any correlation there. It's just a bat. I know I'm sort of jumping to conclusion here, but I feel like there's something special about this bat. I really think it would kind of be like sending a message where you leave a dead animal and it's quite literally his symbol. So I feel like that could be a warning. Like, it's not just a call, it's a warning, but we'll see. And then here, interesting. So you jump to this picture here. This is Arkham State Hospital. I know a lot of people are going to get Joker vibes because Joaquin Phoenix's Joker took place, well, didn't primarily take place, but there was Arkham State Hospital. It wasn't Arkham Asylum. You know, I've not been confused, but it's weird because they always jump around with the idea of asylum and hospital and penitentiary and things like that, but this is State Hospital. I mean, he's got like a jumpsuit on, he's got a collar and shit to make sure he's tied down. You could still see his reflection in the window, Edward Ashton's, and you could see the roundness of his glasses. I love that. I really don't think throughout this movie, until pretty much the last few scenes, we'll see Paul Dano's face, and I'm totally okay with that because it adds to the intensity and the suspense and the nature of the character being this figure that you don't want to mess with. Again, watching Seven, heavy vibes of John Doe when he turned himself in, and it was all part of the game. Quite literally like the Riddler too in The Dark Knight. We saw him in the diner. Paul Dano's Edward Ashton put his hands up, gave himself in, left the coffee cup with the Riddles insignia on it. I know it's just a question mark, but it's heavy vibes of that. Why did he turn himself in? And I love how there's no one else in the scene. It's just quite literally Batman and the Riddler talking. So he must have done, well, he has done a lot of stuff at this point. He's killed a bunch of people. And pretty much, I wouldn't say the staff of the state hospital, the GCPD as well must have some either respect or they're just letting Batman deal with this because it's out of their hands, and the Riddler specifically wants to talk to the Batman. I love that. Like, the I've been trying to reach you. He wants him directly. Every card is titled to the Batman. I love that so much, and I love how, again, it's just nobody else in this scene. It's really this impactful opposing forces but separated by glass, and one is playing into the hands of the other without them even knowing. So it's perfect there. That I'm curious about. Putting down, I have no idea what this is. It looks like a gadget of sorts. It almost looks like a contact lens, but I don't think this would go over someone's eyes, but it just reminds me of contacts. It's got like a circles, and I know this is like wiring and stuff. I'm not good at that stuff, but we do know throughout the movie that Bruce is going to be very intelligent. He's going to display levels of intelligence. Batman in the comics has genius level intellect, 192 IQ, but we haven't really seen that being the primary focus on a Batman film, and it looks to be as though this is going to heavily rely on that comic aspect of him having this vast knowledge and well understanding of the world, but more so he's an inventor in this movie. Robert Pattinson has had interviews where he said he spends his days when he's not Batman just literally inventing gadgets in the version of the Batcave, which appears to be connected to like the subway line and stuff, the Wayne terminus, excuse me. And Alfred thinks he's gone insane because he just keeps making these gadgets. We saw his grapple gun, it slides from his arm onto his hand. Like these cool little things. I would imagine that Batman does something like that as well for this. Another close shot. This shot, man, I know a lot of people initially got Crow vibes, which is not a bad thing because it really adds to that atmosphere of maturity, but more so just like that absolute darkness and visceral sort of approach to a movie. And where that stems from is how he parallels with the black around the eyes and the longer hair that's sort of draped down because he doesn't give a shit, because this is based off Kurt Cobain and being sort of this recluse and in a decaying manner, as Matt Reeves coined it. So it's just, I absolutely love it, but I can't tell. It looks like a TV screen in the reflection of his eye. But I love this shot in particular. I'm just going to plug in one headphone just to listen for this next part. Okay, that was Gordon saying, what are we looking for? This looks like a door handle on a car, and this looks like a car door. So I don't think this is the Batmobile. But we saw a behind-the-scenes photo. I don't know if people got it blocked. I'm not going to put it in this video because I think they took it down, but it was part of like the promo for James Gordon and like the behind-the-scenes featurette. But there was, it's not leaked, it was promo. Like you could buy it, but they just don't want it on the internet. I don't get the logic in that thinking. But there was the photo of Batman standing next to Gordon. They had like a laptop on top of a car, and I feel like it's the same thing here. It would be kind of weird if Batman just rode in the passenger seat, but I mean, it's not really out of the question because Jeffrey Wright has spoken about how they are real like detective partners in this movie. So I'm very interested in that sort of partnership and relationship. And here we have James Gordon, and he was saying that the Riddler is targeting Bruce Wayne next, and we can see again another TV or monitor in the reflection of his glasses, but this is very bright green, so definitely the Riddler. I mean, in the scene they're talking about the Riddler going after Bruce Wayne, and I love the sort of setup for it because it makes you wonder. It's not under the assumption, but I've always believed that this version of the Riddler knows that Batman is Bruce Wayne. A number of people have thought that even from the first trailer, which I did too as well. It could go either ways. Would I be shocked if the Riddler didn't know he was Batman? Just slightly. But would I be okay with it? Of course. But I just feel like it makes sense for Edward Nashton to connect the dots given how smart he is and his obsession both of Batman and Bruce Wayne. You look at his home, their pictures are next to each other. It's really heavily implying that he does know that Batman is Bruce Wayne. But there are still things that will give off the vibe that he doesn't know, and this is an instance of it. And watching the funeral scene where Bruce Wayne looked up at him on the balcony, Edward Nashton paid no mind to him. Or paid no mind, or whatever. He wasn't even looking at Bruce Wayne. He was just looking at his work being done, the DOA car crashing in. But here, it looks like his next victim will try to be Bruce Wayne. I'm assuming this is after the police commissioner dies as well, because Pete Savage, as we know, will die. It wouldn't necessarily be a spoiler. It's more so you have to decipher it through your own intuition. There was the crime web that Bruce Wayne spray painted on the floor, and one of them, the names was Pete Savage with a bunch of pictures. And you just get the assumption that he died, which would make sense. I mean, there are blackmailed photos on the police commissioner because he's also a dirty cop. So, yeah, I feel like the next victim after that, after the mayor, after the DA, after the police commissioner, would probably be Bruce Wayne. So I would imagine he would try to be the fourth victim of the Riddler, potentially the fifth if there is one in between. But I would actually prefer if the Riddler didn't know he was Bruce Wayne, because anytime a villain knows the hero's identity, they always have to die so the damn secret doesn't get out. But I hope he actually doesn't know, so that there could be a future installment or instance where we can actually see the Riddler appear once more and he's not just a one and done character. But we'll have to wait and see. I really think he knows. I think it would make sense if he knows, but it also works completely fine the other way around too. See, this is what I mean. The Riddler's got a newspaper that says, "Who is the Batman?" And then the picture next to it is Bruce Wayne. I'm like, it's just such a tease that he knows, but he doesn't. Like that, I think it would quite literally be the biggest sort of poetic justice in his entire life and throughout this movie that this very narcissistic, ego-driven maniac, essentially, this insane guy who ponders people and asks them a number of riddles and questions to display not only his intelligence, but for them to decipher his madness, his chaos. And he has the biggest question of all, and yet the answer has always been right there in front of him, and he was just too blind or consumed to see it. I feel like that would be so ironic and funny, because he literally has their pictures next to each other, and if he doesn't connect the dots, and I'm like, damn, that's such an L, man. Alright, so that's just some of my thoughts on it. Was that necessary for me to talk that long? Absolutely not, but hey, just why not? Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Again, this is one of my more favorite TV spots. My favorite teaser was the first one. I've loved every bit of Batman promo there's been, but especially this one and the first one, just because of that tone. I still believe the tone to be the centralizing thing pushing through this movie, the core and heart of it, if you will, and that's been stated by Robert Pattinson, Matt Reeves, about how those aspects of being a detective story and sort of this horror aspect, crime thriller, excuse me, sort of really push the movie's direction. So I still have full confidence in that. And they have 2 hours and 47 minutes of actual footage to show. So it's going to be very fleshed out, and I look forward to it so much, and very interested on how good the world's greatest detective will be in this movie. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'd absolutely love to know them. And yeah, my next sort of reaction due from my channel is The Boys Episode 2, which I have not yet watched. I'm going to release that on a Wednesday. Hopefully I can record it tomorrow when I feel better, and then bull rush to get it out Wednesday, so we'll see. But anyway, again, hope you guys enjoyed. And until then, I'll see you folks in whatever next video I have for you.